owning a booming metallurgical industry including nickel, copper, cobalt, and bauxite. Indonesia has determined to seize the advantage and nurture the dragon's ambition in becoming a global hub for electric vehicle production. But is that an easy feat amidst the countless barbed fences of the industry giants? Indonesia is the world's largest producer of nickel, a key component of lithium-ion batteries, the most popular type of EV batteries. That wealth has fueled its ambition to develop a battery industry and a regional EV manufacturing hub. According to Nikkei Asia, Indonesia's first battery cell plant, developed jointly by South Korean carmaker Hyundai Motor and battery producer LG Energy Solution, nears completion. President Joko Widodo said this month it is slated to start production early next year. The plant will produce 30 million battery cells, which can be used to manufacture approximately 180,000 cars, the first and the biggest in Southeast Asia, Widodo said during a visit to the facility in Karawang, West Java province. The Karawang project is part of $9.8 billion joint investment plans in Indonesia's battery supply chain led by LG. Indonesian President Joko Widodo flew to China in August with his EV dreams high on the agenda. He wants big car makers, including from China, to set up in Indonesia, building on the country's emergence as an indispensable source of nickel for EV batteries. That shift was fueled by billions of dollars of Chinese investment in metals plants. Jakarta's dream has received substantial support with billions of dollars invested by China into metal plants. Last April, China's largest battery manufacturer, Contemporary Amperex Technology, CATL, also announced an investment plan in Indonesia. The country has also attracted companies like Tesla with hopes of transforming its abundant resources into a vital global supply chain hub for electric vehicles. However, the efforts to break through in the global electric vehicle value chain are believed to be more complex and less certain than the flourishing nickel metallurgical industry, which Jakarta has already successfully embraced. First and biggest hurdle for Indonesia's plans comes from the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, which offers incentives to EV-related industries running their facilities in the U.S. or other countries with which it has a free trade agreement. Indonesia does not hold such an FTA. The IRA also restricts from the incentives foreign entities of concern, which includes China, providing a further obstacle for Indonesia, given the big Chinese investments in its battery-related projects. It would likely be harder for EV battery manufacturers that have some sort of connection with a Chinese company to sign long-term supply agreements with EV manufacturers if the vehicles will not comply with the US IRA requirements. Santiago Ario, automobile analyst at BEMI, a research unit under Fitch Group, told Nikkei Asia. Indonesia has for months been lobbying for a limited FTA with Washington. Luhut Panjaitan, Indonesia's coordinating minister for maritime affairs and investment, recently told the Bloomberg CEO Forum in Jakarta that a solution might be achieved in November. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, meanwhile, in her bilateral meeting with Widodo at the ASEAN Summit in Jakarta earlier this month, said Washington would continue to work with Indonesia to build a resilient supply chain, including for the critical minerals required to expand our clean energy economies. Septian Haryosito, a Panjaitan deputy, said both governments understand Indonesia's importance as a nickel and cobalt supplier. But apparently, U.S. bureaucracy is far more complicated than ours, he added. And over the longer term, a new battery law issued in July by the EU under its Green Deal could pose another major obstacle. The EU battery regulation will restrict batteries produced through high-emission processes from entering the bloc. It will implement a so-called battery passport in 2026, which required an independently verified disclosure of the entire life cycle of a battery and its carbon footprint before setting a carbon intensity benchmark in 2028. Nick Merritt, Singapore-based partner and co-head of sustainability at global law firm Norton Rose Fulbright, said that spells bad news for Indonesia, noting the country's high dependence on coal, including to provide electricity to power-hungry nickel smelters that produce battery materials. The European Union knows that these targets are causing headaches in China and Indonesia from a compliance perspective, and it is the price of entering their market, Merritt told Nikkei. The regulation could potentially close out one of the major markets in the world to Indonesian nickel down the road. And the expectation is that where the European Union goes, others will typically follow. In addition to the impact from other major players, Indonesia faces several domestic challenges. According to Nikkei Asia, Indonesia has the potential to leverage its vast nickel resources to build an electric vehicle battery industry. However, this Southeast Asian nation must confront other significant barriers. The sprawling archipelago also produces cobalt, copper, and manganese, other critical minerals commonly used in batteries. But it lacks lithium, which has prompted a search for deals led by Luhut Panjaitan, who has visited Australia and some African countries in recent months. Panjaitan in July said Indonesia had secured a contract for the shipment of 60,000 tons from Australia, but it needs far more. Panjaitan's trips were followed by visits by Widodo to Australia and Africa in July and August, but no other known lithium deal has been struck. Septian Haryo-Seto, Panjaitan deputy, summed up the problem at the conference hosted by CNBC Indonesia in late July. The closest place for supply is actually Australia, he said, but added that little of the production is available to Indonesia. Our estimate is more than 90% of the lithium concentrate in Australia is to be sent to China, he said. Seto said some Chinese companies investing in Indonesia have required lithium mines in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Zimbabwe, suggesting that for the time being, Indonesia could meet its lithium needs from those entities. The country's large nickel capacity has made it an attractive investment target. Makoto Tsuchiya, assistant economist at Oxford Economics, wrote in a recent report, Southeast Asia's biggest economy needs more skilled labor, deeper industrial infrastructure, and more low-carbon energy supplies if it wants to produce batteries or electric vehicles in high volumes. The country will also need to offer a more stable business and regulatory environment than it has in the past, Tsuchiya said. According to the Financial Post, only 1/5 of Indonesian citizens aged 25 to 34 have college and university degrees, whereas the rate in countries within the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development is 50%. Furthermore, industrial infrastructure needs to develop further and reduce carbon emissions from energy sources. The largest economy in Southeast Asia also needs to create a more stable business environment. Clean energy and environmental protection should be top priorities. Indonesia's economy still heavily relies on coal, as mentioned earlier, and the carbon emissions from nickel production are also higher than the global average. If successful, according to CNBC, Indonesia's ambitions in electric vehicle development could bring significant benefits to Southeast Asia. Indonesia's EV-friendly policies have lured global investors to the country, but experts say they could also boost investments in Southeast Asia's automotive industry more broadly. Indonesia could be the gateway to the rest of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, said Aditya Novian Bakery, CEO and Resident Director of Bakeries and Brothers, an Indonesian conglomerate whose electric vehicle unit, VKTR, manufactures electric buses as well as EV parts. The Southeast Asian country is rich in copper, nickel, cobalt, and bauxite, materials essential for the manufacturing of electric vehicle batteries. A 2022 ASEAN investment report noted that EV battery production made up a significant share of foreign direct investment in the region between 2019 and 2021, especially in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Despite Indonesia's efforts, the country still faces hurdles in boosting vehicle production. It will be tough for Indonesia to replace Thailand as a regional vehicle production hub, as the latter has a long-established, export-oriented automotive industry. Indonesia will also face challenges from lower-cost producers like Vietnam and the Philippines, said Nishita Agarwal, automotive analyst at EIU. Still, the growth of Indonesia's EV sector could give a halo effect to its neighbors. By providing access to the key materials for EV batteries, the country could attract much more investment and help ASEAN as a region adopt electric vehicles faster and more cheaply, according to a report by Maybank. What do you think about Indonesia's potential? Please leave your comments below. Goodbye now and see you again soon.